empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Morning Scoop for Tuesday, August 9th. We are really into training camp now. The pads have been put on officially. The team has been moved into the hotel. There is no turning back now. Notre Dame is weeks away, no longer months away, and I'm excited about it. We're excited about it on BuckeyeScoop.com. We've been going crazy. Nevadabuck had a huge nugget today on the first really physical day of camp, which was Monday. Tuesday, these guys are going to get after it again, and it's stacking days now for these guys because these guys are going to be feeling like crap, and it's time to see who really wants it and who really wants to be a starter this year for the Buckeyes. So that being said, thank you guys as always. Please subscribe to the channel on YouTube and Spreaker. It means a lot. It helps our algorithm. Throw us a like, hit the little alert bell. Those things all add up. Comment on this one. What do you want to see out of the defense this year? Is it physicality? Is it scheme? What is the most important thing that you want to see from the Jim Knowles defense? Jim Knowles is going to have a media availability today, Tuesday at the WAC. So it'll be interesting to see what he says about the progress of the defense. So with that being said, bring in my compadre. Nevada, how are you?
Doing great. It's been a really exciting time around the scoop, and it's nice to see the pads get on and the guys get after it in earnest, and we're starting to get a little bit of glimpse of what the Ohio State Buckeyes are going to offer for this year, and it's a very exciting time.
Yeah, and any of our new members that are listening, thank you. Welcome to the Morning Scoop podcast. We've had a nice little run of people that are excited about the season. They've joined BuckeyeScoop.com. Nevada, there was one guy on Monday that really stood out. There were 15 NFL scouts in attendance. It was a big day. I always joke that they should hire homeless guys to wear Detroit Lions polos and Arizona Cardinal polos and whatever, and have them walk the sidelines because there's always like an injection of energy at practice when the scouts are kind of milling around for the 10 periods they're allowed to watch. Who was the guy that really stood out on Monday?
Well, I mean, from everybody that was there, and by all accounts, the star of the practice was Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer was a man possessed. He's been a guy that's been on a mission. It was a little light last year. I think he was playing around 230, 235. He's up 260, 270 right now, and playing like a potential first round pick. And he went out there and abused a very good offensive tackle in Paris Johnson for sack after sack after sack, and just had a huge practice. Really put on a show, and really made a statement about about himself, about where he wants to be, and about where the OSU defense wants to be this year, because they've been much maligned. They've been hearing about it for 9 months about how bad they've been, and I think that's really made an impact on them. And you saw today they were chippy, they were barking, they were going after it, they were playing with with a really renewed intensity, and they had a very good practice against a very very good Ohio State offense. The defense was ahead, and that's really something that we haven't said too often. And like I said, Jack Sawyer had a big practice and really took a real big step forward today for the OSU defense.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how they sort out the potential 3 starting defensive ends between Zach Harrison, the senior, and JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, the 2 sophomores, 2 guys that are have extremely high ceilings. They're a little young. JT played more than Jack last year. Jack was light. Jack is not light anymore. He is a load at 270, which is pretty prototypical for a defensive end. And I'm looking to see a jump in production like the sophomore years of Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa. Those guys really established themselves in year 2. And I think that it's going to be something that we're going to really be looking forward to. Nevada, who else had strong days today for Monday's practice?
Well, from my standpoint, Trey Henderson's a guy that, we've talked a lot about Trey, but, he's really kind of established himself as the number 1 running back for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And not that there was really any doubt, but, you've got 3 really good backs. And you've got Mayan Williams and you got Evan Pryor, who are guys that could start at a lot of teams in big-time college football right now. And they're, a distant second behind Trey Henderson, who's really taken it to another level, really, showing outstanding quickness, improved patience, great balance, great strength. He's got it all as a running back, and he's starting to put a little distance between him and the field right now. And I thought he stepped up, and for an offense that had some struggles, Trey Henderson was certainly a bright spot.
Yeah, I think Evan Pryor is a guy that it'll be interesting to see what kind of role they find for him. Obviously, he was outstanding in the spring game, and him and G Scott were two guys that were so good the spring game. I was worried that they might get induced and hit the portal and go have prominent roles at major schools, because that's kind of the double-edged sword of when you feature guys in the spring game. There's going to be schools that are going to be kind of back channel getting a hold of these guys saying, hey, I know that you're third string there, but if you come here, you're going to be our starting tailback, and we're going to give you 20 carries a game or 20 touches a game. And you don't have to go to Ohio State to make it to the NFL as a running back. I mean, there's guys from all kinds of small schools that make it and have nice careers. And I think that's always going to be a challenge going forward with the spring game, as long as there's a one-time transfer rule. Additionally, who else stood out? I know obviously the offensive line had some guys, but you mentioned a guy today, a kid that I love, tough as nails, just a sour, tough customer. Who would that be?
You must be talking about Josh Fryer, because he's a
Oh,
guy that's kind of stepped it up, and we've been wondering who's going to be that sixth guy that the swing tackle on offense, or the interior guy, and he's a guy that's really established himself as right behind the starting five as a an elite offensive lineman. And you're talking about another guy who could start at a lot of places, but he's really stepped it up, really won the respect of his defensive you know, counterparts who, again, when you talk to them about who they don't like going up against in practice, it's one of the first names that comes out of their mouth is Josh Fryer, because he's a bad man, strong, smart, great, hand strength, great punch, can really do it all on the offensive line, can play on any position, really pretty much any position on the offensive line. I think he could even play center in a pinch. So he's incredibly versatile, really giving Justin Fry, a lot of different looks there. I've been excited about him. I was sad that he was hurt in the spring, because I think it really, was a step back. But over the summer, he's been tremendous. And in the fall, he's just continued to dominate. So he's a guy I'm looking for big things out of this year.
yeah, it's interesting because last year when camp began, Josh Fryer was a guy that was the day one starting guard at the beginning of camp, starting left guard. And after they did the Dewan shuffle, they had to get Dewan into the lineup, and Thayer moves to left guard. He kind of became a man lost, and then he got hurt up at Michigan during warmups, and so he missed a lot of spring. And these guys that miss spring, especially young guys, it is devastating to their career, and well, not to their career, but just to making noise, especially with the new offensive line coach. You kind of dread the fact that you're one of the guys that was just on a stationary bike or just in the pit, not really working out, because you want to make a good first impression. We got Jim Knowles today in media. If you're listening to this, it may have already happened. It's he'll be on around noon on Tuesday. Nevada, what do you want to hear from Jim Knowles today at his first press conference of training camp? What are you looking to hear? What do you want to hear? What do you hope to hear?
Well, you want to hear that you've got some young guys that are stepping up and doing a good job. I expect that we'll get a lot of coach speak, and a lot of the things. They've got guys that they're trying to pump. You've got Zach Harrison, you've got Mitchell, you've got other guys that they're really trying to kind of inspire on to great things this year. But I'd like to hear some young guys called, and then I'd like to hear some optimism from Knowles about where this thing's going, because we're only going to go as far as our defense takes us. And we all know that. We all know the OSU offense is loaded. We all know that we're going to score points in droves. But having a coherent defensive structure is really so important. And I can't emphasize that. I really think Kerry Combs, great guy, great Buckeye, great recruiter, great rah-rah guy, but I really think he lost the room last year. And I think the guys stopped respecting him. They stopped listening to the calls. What we ended up with was kind of a hot mess on defense. And I think that those days are over with Knowles, because he's not going to tolerate any of that. And I've already hearing, glowing reviews from the defensive players about how much they respect him, how smart he is, how dedicated he is to his craft. And the players know. The players can smell BS, and they know when you know. And I think he's a guy that's really kind of inspiring that defensive unit, and hopefully he's as pleased as everybody else is with the defense. I feel he won't be. Coaches are never pleased, but it'll be interesting to see who he calls out.
Yeah, I can almost predict the interview. Where we got a long way to before we play Notre Dame. Where guys are playing hard, but they're making mistakes, and we can fix them. Like I already can predict the interview. That's the funny things when I listen to these interviews. It's always like it's like a generic boilerplate interview for 99% of the interview. They might give you like one little sliver of something good, but Jim Knowles is a different cat. He's a vegan. He's a single guy. No no wife, no kids, living with him. So he is all football, which is great for it's great for Ohio State fans. It's terrible for the players because all this guy has to do is watch film and rail on these kids. Which, hey, after last year, they need it. They need to be corrected, and they need to they need to play tougher. They need to play with more effort. And I think that's something that he really prides himself on. He does the gladiator strength and honor thing to start every meeting, which some guys might think it's corny. I think it's pretty cool because it's like everyone's like, all right, this is what's going to be. We're going to stick together, and people repeat it, and it's like one of those. It's like anything. Like if you really believe in it, you're left conviction in it. Then a couple guys, then 5 guys, and 10 guys, and 40 guys, all of a sudden, they're all saying the same verbiage and the same thing. I mean, he's real big on the little words and. Hey, if you say ball in the air, got to score. Like if he says ball in the air to you, everyone says got to score. So he has all these little kind of devices to try to program these guys to believe in themselves and to set the mindset of the defense. Bunch of offensive linemen were interviewed today. Nevada, what do you want to see or hear about this offensive line as the camp goes on? Obviously we've got a couple new interior guys. Luke Whippler and the tackles they've got, they started all year last year, but what do you want to hear about the O-line going forward over the next 2-3 weeks of camp?
I just really want to hear about the young guys and how the young guys are moving along. I guess a young old guy like an Enoch or a Zen Mikulski is, I just want to hear their names called. I want to hear some good things about some of the young guys. I'd like to see, some of the younger guys step up because I have total confidence in the starting 5 plus Fryer. I know that we've got 6 terrific offensive linemen right now, and frankly, that's probably enough. But I'd like to hear about some of the younger guys and how the younger guys are doing, and would like to, that I think that would be a really strong indicator for Fry. I think Fry right now he's been struggling a little bit on the recruiting trail right now. Haven't landed any of the big fish, but we're getting a lot of Ohio kids, or maybe another Ohio offer out here for a 2023 kid. So I think listening to who they talk about and just as importantly who they're not talking about will tell us a lot about the offensive line room and how good Justin Fry feels about it going forward.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Justin put the 3 true freshmen out at tackle to start camp, which is something I thought was smart. He put Tigre out there. Tigre's built as much like a guard as maybe anybody we've ever had on the roster. He's like 6'4", 340 or 330. I'm sure he's trying to get whittled down a little bit, but they got him out at tackle to see if he could handle the pass protection aspect and see if he can vertically set out there and hang in there at tackle. And that's what I've always said is like you always want to try everybody at tackle first to see if they can do it. And if they can't, then you can bump them into guard. But, if you can, the biggest thing is can he pass block a tackle? Because, run blocking is basically the same at guard and tackle. Now, granted, you're going to go against a little squattier fire hydrant type dude when you're playing guard and center, more athletic, longer basketball type players at defensive end when you're playing tackle. But it's interesting that they put Tigre out at tackle. But I think it's smart. And that's why, when, the guys that are the Ohio guys that are committed, Austin Sierreveld and Josh Padilla. Josh will probably start off inside, but the other 3 guys will probably all start off at tackle just because, you got to figure out if they can pass block a tackle and see if you can keep them there. Because if you can pass block a tackle, then your utility goes through the roof because that's the toughest part of the offensive line is blocking those really, really good edge rushers. As camp continues to go, Nevada, project out who you could see breaking out over the next couple of weeks. Obviously we always have practice reports popping up and insider nuggets about what's going on. Who are some names that you hope to hear from? Who are some guys that you hope to hear about in the next few weeks?
Well, I'm hoping to hear, you'd like to hear some Kai Stokes. You'd like to hear some Jordan Hancock, on the defense and offensively, maybe a tight end kind of emergence. You'd like to hear a little bit more about Joe Royer or Mitch Rossi and, somebody come from there. We're so stacked at the wide receiver position. It's going to be hard for guys to move in behind guys like JSN and Emeka and Marvin Harrison, who it's just those guys are just marvelous players. But maybe a Julian Fleming, like to hear about him a little bit more, and hopefully he brings it. The guy was the consensus number one wide receiver in the country, and has been kind of snake bit by injuries and other little nagging things. I'd like to see him put it together. That'd be a name I'd like to hear, out of the coaches' mouths coming and here as fall camp progresses. But we'll see. It's an exciting time, and Notre Dame game can't get here soon enough.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of guys. I mean, you nailed a lot of guys, but for me, Josh Proctor, how's he moving around post injury? Lathan Ransom's a guy. We were snake bit pretty good on the injury side. Mike Hill and Tyleek are two guys I'd love to see. If they can turn the corner, and take Ty Hamilton's spot or Jerron Cage's spot or Teron Vincent. I mean, it's there's a lot of seniority in that D line room, but I don't think that too many of those jobs are ironclad locked down. The way that the O line room is, where the tackles you can write in ink, the center you can write in ink. The guards are heavy pencil at this point. I mean, I can't imagine anyone beating out Donnie or Matt Jones. But that D line room is going to be interesting to see. And again, obviously defensive line, they play in a rotation regardless. So they say that starting doesn't matter, but the only people that say that are people that have never played football before, because starting always matters. You always want to be the starter. It doesn't matter if you rotate every other play. You still want to be the first guy out there, just because, it's a pride thing. That being said, had a nice weekend on Buckeye Scoop. A lot of activity, super active board. Nevada, what are people getting when they join BuckeyeScoop.com right now?
Well, it's just like you said, it's the most active message board in the entire OSU community by far. Just great people, just a kind of a non-toxic, really enlightened type of environment where people are asking good questions and interacting well, and it's just a great place to hang out if you're interested in OSU sports and sports in general. The message board is just a great place to be, and we'd love to have you at BuckeyeScoop.com.
Yeah, and we've added to our bench considerably. We added 2 new insiders that are very similar to Nevadabuck. They have very specific disciplines that we're excited about. One's confidence expansion and recruiting. The other is inside practice info, which we're super excited about. We added TJ Downing, who's a former All-American offensive guard, my best friend, former roommate, but he is a radio personality in Canton. He owns Stark Media Group, which is a blossoming thing. They do a lot of stuff with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was interviewing Tony Baselli and Lawrence Taylor this weekend. Really, really fun stuff. And we have Bill the Bank Green, who's the best recruiting guy in the game, a guy who really works hard, great South Florida connections, has really been on a tear, and he's got his own style that everybody loves. And then we've got a young superstar named Joe Drame, who's doing our day-to-day coverage. And I couldn't be more excited about Joe. He's a werewolf on the message board. He's always on. Works really hard. I think he's got a huge future in this industry. Excited about this kid. I think he's really going to do some great stuff. So that being said, Nevada, appreciate you, my man. All right, we're going to wrap this thing up. That being said, guys, I appreciate you guys so much. We've had a great run on Buckeye Scoop. It's been incredible. We had a great weekend. Ton of new subscribers. Thank you guys who subscribed. We appreciate you guys. If you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like and subscribe to the content. We really work hard at the stuff. We want to give you guys good daily content. Make sure you enjoy it. Leave us some feedback down below in the comments. What player do you want to see break out in camp? This is the dog days. This is when you see who really wants it and who doesn't want it. And it's go time now for these boys. So appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. You guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.